Why don't you
me to
go
go.
first? Because yours will kind of flow back to back. Because
Okay.
running through that whole series.
Well, if you guys don't know, in the previous episode, I did mention that in celebration of God of War Ragnarok, which comes out, I think that's November 9th or 10th,
Hmm.
I had only ever played God of War 1. So I am like kind of blast through the entire series now that I got a PS5. And luckily it's possible because on the PS5 they have literally every single God of War game on the premium plus or whatever that the thing I have. But
Hmm.
basically I can kind of stream every game. I kind of wish they gave you the option to download them versus stream them, but I
Well,
don't know.
I
We'll
thought
talk
they
about
did
that.
for the because you're playing the PS2 ports of God of War 1 and 2, right? I kind of
Yeah, they don't
swore you
give you
could
that option.
download the PS2 ones. I know the PS3 one they force you to stream, but I could be
Really?
wrong.
I didn't see any option for that. I mean, I would have definitely preferred to download unless I just missed it or something.
I
But
could be wrong. I mean, I
um,
know like when it was still PlayStation Now, like for a lot of the PS2 games, you had the option because they could emulate some of the PS2 stuff on the system. PS3 though, there's no emulation. That's the biggest issue. That's why people still go out and buy PS3s because the only way to play it is on the actual hardware. I guess now through the cloud stuff that PlayStation's doing, but that's a whole different topic.
yeah. So Metal Gamer, did you have a PS5? Not yet. You have the
I'm
any
not
of the
as
new?
cool. I'm
Not
not
as
as cool
cool.
as you guys. Yeah. I have an Xbox Series X. That's always nice.
Oh, that's
So
nice. Cool. At least you got
yeah.
that. I mean, it's probably not a great financial decision on my behalf, at least, to do all that.
It is
Oh,
getting a lot
I
easier, I
mean,
think, to find the PlayStation 5. So,
Hmm.
like, I've been, like, for like a week straight, PlayStation had them on their PlayStation Direct page. So, I mean, they're getting more available. Granted, they're pushing you to buy the Horizon Edition. So, they're kind of
Yeah.
jacking up the price a couple of ways, but we'll get to that later.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm veering
Anyways,
you off.
no, you're good. So once again, I had played God of War 1 before, so it was basically a replay for me, but I don't know, it was a nice little refresher to kind of get reacclimated with the story and how everything began with the series. I don't know. You guys, what were you? Did you guys ever get to play the very first one?
I played the first one. Played the first one. I like started the second one a couple of times, but never finished it. And then I watched a buddy play through most of three. The only one I actually played all the way through myself was the newest one on the PS4. So the
Mm,
remake, not remake, reboot, I guess they'll call it. So the first one and the
yeah.
most recent one, the ones I played. What about you, Metal?
I played the first one and I have the second one as well. So I did play it. Didn't play three. So I don't know. I just didn't get catch my interest at
Isn't
the time.
I believe 3 is the one most people consider the best one, or at least before 2018 came out. That was like the perceived best one.
I suppose
So
I don't know.
yes.
I didn't really hear a lot of fanfare one way or the other about it. I mean, 'cause I said I only played the first one, so as far as my kind of
Hmm.
perception of it, that was the best one. That's the one I
Yeah.
played.
Really?
Um,
Okay.
Yeah.
but man, I think people probably liked three primarily because it was the end of the story. I know the whole point is he goes through, kills all the gods, and that was kind of the finality to it. So I'm sure that had some almost like Halo 3 vibes, right? You have to finish the fight kind of deal. So
Yeah. And now universally, I think most people like 2018 the best, or it seems like, or maybe that's recency biased for some
maybe
people.
whenever
I
you
don't
get to
know.
that one, I have some things to say about that for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, but how'd you like
Okay.
one? Because you played one in the past, right?
I have played it in the past, and it held up really well. I actually found myself really enjoying the game. Um, I I kind of talked about it on the stream I was doing, but like, if it felt like was that game like the first like generation of hack and slashes of its time, or where like 'cause I feel like it was like the start of that because right at about the same time like DMC and some other like Bayonetta games were starting to come out, Dante's Inferno.
I don't know if it
I
was
feel like it
this.
popularized that.
Yeah, it probably popularized it. I wouldn't say it's the start. I mean, you had games similar in that genre before then. Trying to think of some off the top of my head, but I think that was probably the first one that really, I think, developed it in such a way that made it mainstream. It almost had like an
Hmm.
arcade kind of feel to it, which I think probably made it simpler for a casual gamer to kind of hop into.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, the gameplay is super fun. I really enjoyed that. I would say though, for me, definitely with the first one, the strongest aspect that I personally enjoy is I'm a big Greek mythology fan. So like just the narrative and I don't know, just the plot, what it has going on is almost definitely my favorite aspect. Just how they're able to kind of work in Kratos's, relationship is with the gods, why he's working for Athena to essentially try and gain favor with the gods, to remove his memory from this traumatic event and all of his previous wrongdoings with with Ares and everything. All of that stuff is really cool, and I kind of like how they work in like his downtroddenness about how why even like to the fact that like why his skin is white, which is that's because that's the ashes of his family that he brutally murdered accidentally due to Ares, and I don't know, all that stuff's really cool. I feel like the narrative and how it works in like Pandora's Box and all the Titans and stuff. The first one's really cool. Same thing with you guys. Was that your favorite part, gameplay or narrative or anything for that one?
I'll let you go, Metal.
It's been a long time since I played that game. But I can easily say that the boss fights for me were just absolutely fantastic. I remember a lot of them being like super huge and epic. And
there's some like the Hydra ones.
The Hydra
cool.
one. I found it was at a thrift store or something. There was like a PS2 demo disc of just the Hydra fight. I thought that was pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah. But no, I agree. The boss fights were really fun on there.
Yeah, there's like cool ones. There's like the Minotaur. There was like a robotic. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I completely agree with you on like all the story stuff, but man, they really manhandled that gameplay so good.
And it's really
it's probably one of the reasons why I got into it heavily is because of that.
Yeah, I think the gameplay was probably the main reason that kept me with it. I mean, I did like the story a lot, but the gameplay is what kind of hooks you into it. I think kind of pulls you along. I think it would probably help though from a story standpoint, at least for me. Like it was a very dark, kind of like moody, angsty kind of story too. And like I was like a 13, 14-year-old listening to Linkin Park at the time, so it was right up my alley. So
he's always yelling in that game. Ares.
Should have had a band.
It gets even worse when you get to 2. He's always yelling, Zeus! Zeus!
He's so angry.
Yeah, so 2 I don't know much about at all. Like,
you want to move on to it already, or you want to?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead. I guess I'm just.
No, you're good.
Like, from your opinion, like, did the gameplay evolve enough going into 2? Or did it feel just like extending God of War like the first one?
It felt very much like an extension to me. Like they did add some like couple new weapons. There are some like additional moves that you can do by pressing the left. Like what's different is that if you hold on to the L1, that gives you like a different offset. If you press like circle, triangle, it gives you like a different move. So there's a couple like additions that they added, but for the most part, honestly, I think I mentioned it when we were hanging out just the other night. Two expands upon a couple little things, but I very much preferred 1 versus 2. And I think it's purely because of the narrative. I feel like the narrative and the lore building and the kind of world, everything that it's building up just feels better. And when it gets to 2 feels more grandiose, it feels much larger, and it's way cooler at the end, but the game as a whole just feels like almost, I don't want to say carbon copy, because it's not a carbon copy. There are cool stuff. But 1, it feels like it kind of runs, does a lot of the similar things, is what I mean.
All right. I'm probably making an assumption here, because once again, I haven't played it all the way through, but I know at that time, I'm sure, like, the first one was a huge hit, so they were, of course, hired on to keep building this IP out, and 2 ends on a cliffhanger, right?
2 ends. Well, that's why I mentioned it the other night. Is 2 ends on a cliffhanger. That's part of the reason why it was so surprising, though, moving on from 1 to 2, because 1 felt very much like a game that they were a game developer that weren't expecting to be able to get a second game made. So 1 ties a lot of things into neat bows, and it ends
it was encapsulated.
Yeah, Kratos is just on the throne, and he's now the God of War, and it doesn't feel like it's leading up to anything, even though they do, at the end of 1, in the credits, they do say Kratos will be back, so I feel like they kind of tried to have their cake and eat it too, where they're like, okay, it's got a nice, neat ending, bows tied, it's all set. Kratos will be back, therefore it gives them wiggle room, in case they are getting funded.
I guess my point with that is I think games that end up being the second in a trilogy end up being in a weird spot, because it's hard for them to stand on their own. Like, that was my biggest issue for like Halo 2. I know a lot of people love Halo 2, that's their favorite Halo. I did not. Maybe it's just because I played it. I think I was a little late to the game when Halo 2 kind of came out. Like 3 was kind of already like on the horizon, and I loved 3. Partially because it was the whole finish the fight thing, and I thought the gameplay just was improved substantially on it. But I feel like this might probably have some similar attributes with like it really doesn't stand on its own. Like, it does what the first game did, maybe a little better, but it doesn't, wrap things up in a way to kind of have that satisfying conclusion like the third one that is going to have. So I don't know if you would agree with that, kind of running through it.
I mean, I do agree with it. Well, once again, I felt like the meat of the second game was. I mean, the first. I don't want to act like the first one doesn't do it either. Like the entire trip throughout the first game through Pandora, or through Kronos and all of the temple and everything, Pandora's temple. Like that section is like maybe 60% of the game, 50%, and it runs on entirely too long. And then the second game, like you were saying, it does almost the exact same thing where your search for the Sisters of Fate, you're searching for them, and the entire trip to find them is probably like 60% of the game. So it does the same thing where like they do, like between both games they do the same thing in parts where they run a bit long, and there's tons of like fight sections mixed in with like a crap ton of puzzles, which I thought the second one would have less of after playing the first one, and it's the opposite. The second one has maybe more puzzles, and I don't know.
Did you play the second one, Metal?
I haven't played it too much. I got into it for a little bit, and then I just kind of dropped off.
Yeah, fair enough.
I can understand that. Like once again, I thought the second one was really good, but after the opening boss battle section, that game just like it starts to slog, and
Slow down.
Yeah, but versus the first one, the end of the first one was pretty good. I enjoyed it, but the end of the second one leads to like, it's so awesome. Like I will say, like you were saying, you like the boss battles in the first one. I think that's again another one of the things that it does better than the first one is the boss battles in 2 are like super crazy, and so 2 has better boss battles, but it has a better end. But as a whole, I like the first one more. I think the first one's a better game, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll be curious how you feel when you get to 3. Like I'm curious how much they really, because 3 is the first one that was on the PS3, so I'm really curious how much it kind of utilizes the power, not just to change like the visuals of it. Because I mean, I remember playing the demo of 3 and then watched my buddy play it, but I don't recall how much the gameplay it really evolved going from 2 to 3. So I'm curious to see if the PS3 influences what you can do gameplay wise.
I should pick that up then. If that's
once again, man, the second one's boss battles are just crazy. The end battle with Zeus is insane. There's a battle with the Sisters of Fate, which is awesome. There's an opening battle with like a Colossus that's crazy. I mean, it definitely ratchets it up. And now when I get to 3, I'm gonna have high expectations for these boss battles and sections. I'm gonna hope they're like even grander.
All right. Cool.
I did want to mention just one more thing. I guess I'll just wrap up these two game reviews into one video. But like the running joke in between the first 2 games, you run into this the very first game at the very beginning when you face the Hydra. There's this boat captain that is in the mouth of the Hydra, and he's like, "Oh, thank you for saving me." And you go in there and you're like, "I didn't come for you," and you just grab the key from around his neck and drop him down, and like you see him again at the end of the first one in Hades. He's like down in Tartarus,
I remember that.
like hanging on a cliff, and you're like. He's like, "You again," and you knock him
Kick
off.
him off.
And then you see him in the second game, because you have a battle against the barbarian that killed, or that made you call for Ares for help in the first game, and the barbarian has the ability to call forth dead souls. And one of the zombies he calls forth is the captain, and he's like, "Oh no, not again!" when he sees you.
That's funny.
It's so funny. Like I'm hoping to see him in the third game now.
Nice.
I don't know.
That's pretty awesome.
It was fun. I definitely enjoyed both games. I'm very much looking forward to 3, and then I guess so. I gotta play Ascension after that, right?
Well, here's the thing. Like, I'm curious. Ascension is a prequel, to my knowledge.
I believe it's between 1 and 2, from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, do you really want to play it? I guess my point being, I know it didn't get super critically acclaimed. And if you're just doing this from a chronological standpoint, you kind of already missed the spot where you should have played Ascension if it's supposed to be between 1 and 2. So after 3, you could just go straight into the new one if you wanted to. And technically,
I don't want to play Ascension though.
Okay, well, I mean, that's up to you. Actually, I would feel like I'm opening up a can of worms because there isn't just Ascension. Like they've got, was it Chain of Olympus
I've
and
got the
Ghost of
PSP
Sparta,
I forgot about those.
and they have those on the PS3. So you don't
Do
have
they really?
Yeah, I've got. I don't know if they have them on the service that you're streaming it on, but I've got the PS3 disc somewhere back on the wall that has those, remade for the PS3.
I would totally play those.
Well, if you want to do those, then yeah, I've got those, so you can borrow it.
I have
Maybe
to figure out how to
you
stream
got to
it.
return my Mass Effect first.
Oh yeah, we'll do an even swap.
There we go.